Hello, good afternoon. My name is Debbie Gadon. Today we'll be discussing comparative HRM. Our learning objectives after this discussion on comparative human resource management or CHRM, you would be able to understand why we need CHRM and what it does within the globalized world. Um, Second is explain how national culture together with institutions affects HRM policies in different nations. And then lastly would be show obvious differences and similarities in major HRM practices at international levels such as recruitment, training, and compensation. Definition and scope. Comparative HRM or CHRM is a study of the variations as well as similarities that exist in the manner in which human resource management or HRM practices are conducted from one country to another due to factors like national culture, institutions, and economic systems. It emphasizes on understanding the way HRM is context specific across borders. In simple terms, it's about studying how HRM changes depending on the country's context. Importance and relevance in today's globalized world. Imagine you're running a company that sells smartphones. Your company has offices in multiple countries like the USA, China, and Germany. Each country has its own way of managing employees, like hiring, training, and paying them. Now, because your business is because your business is expanding globally, you need to make sure your HRM practices work well everywhere. That's where comparative HRM or CHRM comes in. It helps you understand how HRM practices differ from one country to another. For example, in the USA, employees might prefer more individual recognition, while in China, they might value teamwork more. By studying these differences and adapting your HRM practices accordingly, you can make sure your employees feel valued and motivated no matter where they're from. This helps your company succeed on a global scale. Key objectives and goals. The main goals of CHRM as follows. Comparing HRM across countries. It's like comparing how different countries handle things like hiring, training, and managing their employees. For example, in Japan, it's common for companies to offer lifetime employment, while in the United States, it's more common for people to change jobs frequently. Understanding context based management. This means realizing that what works for managing people in one place might not work the same way in another. For instance, in some countries, employees might prefer direct feedback from their bosses, while in others, they might prefer feedback to be given more indirectly. Designing global team management. It's about figuring out how to manage teams made of people from different countries and cultures. For example, a company with offices in the USA, India, and Brazil might need to find ways to effectively coordinate work across time zones and cultural differences. And lastly, increasing global competitiveness. By using CHRM effectively, companies can improve their ability to compete with other companies in international markets. For instance, understanding cultural differences might help a company tailor their products or services to better suit the needs of customers in different countries. Theoretical frameworks in CHRM. First one is Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory. Hofstede's cultural dimension theory is Hofstede, which is Gerard Henry Gert Hofstede. identified six cultural dimensions include power distance, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, long term orientation, and indulgence that influence the HRM practices like leadership styles and communication patterns. So let's simplify each concept with real life examples, not just for this one and the succeeding theoretical frameworks. Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory. Imagine you're working for a company that has offices in both Japan and the United States. In Japan, there's a high power distance, meaning bosses are respected and decisions are made by higher ups. In the US, there's a lower power distance, so employees might feel more comfortable sharing ideas with their bosses. The next one is the Trompenaars cultural dimensions. This is Alphonsus Fons Trompenaars. Um, Trompenaars proposed seven cultural dimensions include universalism versus particularism, achievement versus ascription, diffuse versus specific, affective versus neutral, sequential versus simultaneous, internal control versus external control, and relationship versus group have an impact on HRM practices such as performance management and compensation. Let's say you're a part of a team where some members come from cultures that value rules and structure, which is universalism, while others come from cultures that focus more on relationships and personal connections, which is particularism. This can lead to different approaches to teamwork and decision making. The next theory is the institutional theory. Institutional theory, according to institutional theory, within a country's legal frameworks, labor unions and social security system shapes the HRM practices. The roots of institutional theory can be traced back to the writings of Max Weber on legitimacy and authority. The perspective originated in the 1950s and 1960s with the work of Talcott Parsons, Philip Zelznick, and Alvin Goldner on organization, environment, relations. Consider two companies operating in different countries. In one country, there are strong labor laws and unions, so companies prioritize fair treatment of workers and might offer generous benefits like Australia. In another country with fewer labor or unenforced regulations, companies might focus more on maximizing profits and offer fewer benefits like the Philippines. And lastly, resource-based view or RBV of HRM. RBV suggests firms leverage unique HR practices as a competitive advantage. CHRM helps understand how to develop and utilize HRM practices effectively across different contexts. The resource-based view of the firm, which was first called such by Berger Nerfeld in the 1980s, saw further development by J. Barney from the 1990s. Edith Penrose built up much of the intellectual foundation for this perspective, while Jeroen Kruijenbrink has reviewed some criticisms against it. This theory has seen important developments and refinements since 2019. Think about a tech company known for its innovative products. One reason for its success could be its unique HR practices, like fostering a creative work environment or offering flexible schedules. These HR practices become a source of competitive advantage, helping the company attract and retain top talent. Key concepts in CHRM: convergence versus divergence. Are HRM practices becoming more similar or different globally? There is an ongoing debate about convergence, practices becoming similar, and divergence, practices remaining distinct in CHRM. Globalization may lead to some convergence, but national and cultural contexts continue to influence practices. There are two main viewpoints. Universalist says that HRM practices are becoming similar globally due to a framework called neoliberalism. And number two, contextualists argue that cultural and institutional factors create differences in HRM practices between countries. Neoliberalism framework is an economic approach that promotes free markets, private privatization, and reduced government regulation. In simple terms, it's about letting the economy run itself with minimal government interference. Universalists believe that there are universal principles or methods that work for everyone, regardless of differences. In the context of HRM, they argue for standardized HRM practices globally. Contextualist believes that the effectiveness of practices depends on the specific context of environment in which they are applied. They emphasize the importance of considering cultural, institutional, and other contextual factors when designing HRM strategies. National culture factors, how cultural values influence work practices. Some people think that differences in HRM practices between countries come from deep seated cultural and institutional values. Hofstede's cultural dimensions are often used to categorize nations, but some experts think this is oversimplified. National culture influences various aspects of HRM, including leadership styles, communication patterns, decision making processes, and attitude towards work, authority, and organizational hierarchy. So, in leadership styles, cultures with high power distance might prefer hierarchical leadership, while low power distance cultures might favor more participative styles. In cultures where there's a big gap between people in power and those who aren't, hierarchical leadership where one person at the top makes decisions is common. But in cultures where there is gap or the gap is smaller, leaders might prefer involving others in decision making. Communication patterns. Direct communication may be preferred in individualistic cultures, while collectivist cultures might value more indirect and relationship based communication. Some cultures prefer straightforward, direct communication, especially those that value individualism. Others might prefer communication that's more subtle and focused on maintaining relationships, which is common in collectivist cultures. In decision making processes, cultures with high uncertainty avoidance may favor centralized decision making, which cultures with lower uncertainty avoidance may be more comfortable with decentralized decision making, or in cultures where people are uncomfortable with uncertainty, decisions are often made by a few people at the top to avoid mistakes. But in cultures where people are more okay with uncertainty, decision making might be spread out among different levels of organization. Attitudes towards work, authority, and organizational hierarchy. Individualistic cultures might emphasize personal achievement, while collectivistic cultures might prioritize group goals and respect for authority. Cultures that focus on individual achievement might prioritize personal goals over group goals. In contrast, cultures that emphasize group harmony and respect for authority might prioritize teamwork and following rules set by leaders. Institutionalist perspectives, legal frameworks, labor unions, and social security systems shape HRM. Mhm. Another explanation comes from neo institutionalism, which looks at how organizations adopt practices to seem more legitimate. Comparative capitalism theory suggests that different national business systems prefer different HRM strategies. This idea says that companies adopt certain practices to look good and fit in with what's expected in their industry or society. For example, a company might offer generous parental leave not just because it's good for employees, but also because it helps them seem like a good employer. Institutional environments significantly impact HRM practices, including legal frameworks, labor unions, and social security systems. Comparative capitalism theories. This theory says that different countries have different ways of doing business. For example, in some countries, the government might play a big role in the company and have strict regulations, while in others, it might be more hands off. This affects how companies manage their employees in those countries. A real life example would be, imagine you have two companies, one in a country with strong labor unions and generous social security benefits, and another in a country with fewer regulations and less government involvement. The first company might offer higher wages and more benefits to attract workers and keep them happy, while the second company might focus more on keeping costs low and maximizing profits. In summary, while there are common aspects of HRM globally, we also need to understand how they fit into each other's country's unique context. For example, let's say you have a multinational company with offices in Australia, New Zealand, and UK. Well, the company might have some global HR policies like performance reviews or training programs. These policies might need to be adjusted to fit each country's laws, culture, and business practices. So while there's a push for HRM practices to converge globally, due to globalization, there's also recognition that each country has its own path and needs when it comes to managing its workforce. Empirical ways of understanding diversity. Empirical research on diversity in HRM looks at how HR practices vary in different countries or regions. One approach is to examine how different companies handle HR in various national contexts. Comparative HRM research shows that there are many ways for companies to stay competitive, and HR practices can change over time. So instead of relying solely on theories or opinions, empirical research involves gathering data through observation or experimentation to analyze and draw conclusions about diversity. In the context of HRM, empirical research on diversity might involve studying actual practices and policies in companies or organizations in various countries or regions. Researchers may collect data on things like hiring practices, employee demographics, training programs, and workplace culture to understand how diversity is managed and its impact on organizational outcomes. Overall, empirical research provides tangible evidence and insights into the complexities of diversity, helping researchers and practitioners develop effective strategies for managing diversity in the workplace. So, challenges and opportunities in comparative HRM. Cultural barriers, differences in culture between countries can make it difficult to use the same HRM practices everywhere. What works in one country might not work well in another because of cultural differences. So, a company might need to adjust its HRM practices to fit each country's culture. Legal and regulatory complexities. Every country has its own laws and regulations about things like working hours, wages, and discrimination. This means companies operating in different countries need to make sure their HRM practices follow local laws. Balancing global consistency and local needs. Companies want to have some consistency in how they manage their employees globally, but they also need to adapt to local differences. For example, a company might have the same performance review process worldwide, but adjusts it slightly to fit each country's culture or laws. Leveraging diversity. Having a diverse workforce, employees from different countries, cultures, and backgrounds can actually be a good thing for companies. It can bring new perspectives and ideas, making the company more competitive. So, CHRM helps companies make the most of their diverse workforce. Future trends and implications. So, emerging technologies, new technologies like artificial intelligence or AI and automation are changing how HRM practices work worldwide. For example, they might help companies find and train employees more efficiently. Sustainability and CSR. Companies are paying more attention to sustainability and corporate social responsibility or CSR. This affects how they hire and keep employees happy. For instance, employees might want to work for a company that cares about the environment. Virtual teams and remote work. More people are working on teams that are spread out across different locations, and more people are working from home. This means HRM practices need to change to support this new way of working, like finding ways to keep remote workers connected and engaged. In short, these trends are shaping how HRM works globally, and companies need to adapt to stay competitive and keep their employees happy. So these are some case studies, examples. So in case study 11.1, HRM in Mozambique, even though Mozambique has gone through big changes over time, some things in how they manage workers have stayed the same. Managers still talk to employees directly and adjust things like work terms based on what each person needs. Um, Key features of HRM in Mozambique is HR practices in Mozambique involve long-standing practices where management stays in touch with workers and adjusts terms based on individual needs. This hands-on approach reflects the historical context and the importance of relationship in Mozambique's work culture. Reasons for continuities in HRM in Mozambique. HRM in Mozambique continues to follow similar practices due to historical reasons like past management traditions and the value placed on personal connections with employees. These practices are likely shape Mozambique's cultural and social norms. In Case study 11.2, which is Ireland and the multinationals. Big companies from other countries, especially the US, have changed how companies in Ireland do things like manage their employees. But there are still differences between these big foreign companies and the smaller local ones in how they handle HR stuff. So, reasons for differences between multinational companies and indigenous firms in Ireland. Foreign multinational companies or MNCs in Ireland often bring their own HR practices from their home countries, leading to differences from the practices in local companies. This divergence occurs because of varying levels of adaptation and convergence in HR practices. So, challenges of heavy reliance on FDI for host government. Relying heavily on foreign direct investment or FDI can be challenging for the host government. They need to balance attracting and keeping foreign investment with protecting the rights and welfare of local workers. Finding this balance is crucial for maintaining both economic growth and social responsibility. And for our last case study example, which is 11.3, institutional change, work, and employment relations, the changing fortunes of Mercedes Benz in South Africa. A big car company, Mercedes Benz, made its plant in South Africa much better after apartheid ended. They made lots of cars quickly and with good quality because the workers were treated better. So, transformation at Mercedes Benz in East London. After apartheid ended, improvements in labor conditions in South Africa led to significant changes at the Mercedes Benz plant in East London. These changes reflected broader shifts in society and regulations, resulting in higher productivity and better quality standards. So, limitations of cultural approaches to comparative HRM. Focusing only on cultural factors might not fully explain what happened at Mercedes Benz. It's important to consider broader institutional changes that also influence HR practices. So, The effects of large multinational ownership on outcomes. Ownership by a big multinational like Mercedes Benz had a positive impact on the plant. They brought in advanced management techniques and resources, leading to better conditions for the workers and improve overall performance. So, overall, these stories show how HR practices can be different in different places and how history, culture, and laws can all play a big role in how companies manage their workers. So, as we conclude, it's evident that CHRM plays a crucial role in fostering effective people management strategies, designing approaches for managing diverse teams, and ultimately enhancing organizational performance in the global marketplace. Moving forward, a deeper understanding of CHRM will continue to be essential for organizations seeking success in an increasingly interconnected world. So that concludes our presentation for today regarding CHRM. Thank you very much, and until next session. Thank you.